What the fuck, over? For those of you that have been a serious listener,
yep,
we're finally going to do a call-in from
we got our first call-in today.
Paul Pett from Wisconsin, Lacrosse, Wisconsin.
All the way from God's country.
God's country. Where you at right now, though, Paul?
I am sitting on a hilltop outside of Hillsboro, Wisconsin, on a sunny day, and we're sitting in our cabin. And I'm sitting in here with 3 dachshunds on my lap, and another one curled up in front of the fireplace. The other knucklehead's out running around somewhere.
Yeah, well, we had to have you as our first call-in because of we go back a pretty long time. When was it? Since 1989? We've known each other?
1990.
90? I thought it was 89.
Early in 90.
Okay. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah.
So what's been picking at your brain lately, Paul?
Well, you guys want to go fact-based or you want to go conspiracy theory? I can jump down either rabbit hole.
Let's go through the first rabbit hole. Let's save the conspiracies for a little bit longer.
Oh, that's fine. Well, we all know fact. We're kind of on a semi-lockdown.
Yes.
Because of this. Now, Wisconsin here, we can come and go in our houses and go grocery shopping, but like the restaurants and cafes are serving just takeout.
Yep, that's how it is here too.
Yeah, and but we still have the freedom of movement at all hours. Nobody's stopping you at night when you leave your house. But people are, for the most part, doing the social distancing thing.
Yeah, they're trying up here too.
Really, Gisla's now. The managers are just going up and babysitting the shrine during the week, and they're shut down.
Okay, well, explain that. Explain who Gisla, your lovely wife, is and where she works.
No, she runs a restaurant for the Shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe up here in Lacrosse, Wisconsin. And the restaurant is called the Colina Mariana. And she's the chief cook and bottle washer there. And right now, all her staff is laid off, and they've shut down the restaurant part completely. So herself and a few other managers that run the visitor center and the things like that they're still going in, but it's really.
Is she
it's
doing
open yet it's not open? You can still go to the grounds and take a walk on all the paths through the woods to take you up to the shrine and stuff. But
do they let her do they let her do takeout? I mean, for people that want some of the food.
They were doing takeout and then they stopped it.
Okay.
She's completely shut down.
Okay. Yeah.
How long? We don't know.
Right. All the restaurants around here are doing takeout. We've been trying to keep the home base employed. Downtown Hobart, we try to order from them at least once a week. Keep those people employed.
Yeah, and a lot of it is, it doesn't help the waiters and waitresses, maitre d's and stuff, because now all you need for takeout is the kitchen staff and somebody at the register.
Right.
I mean, so you're still not being able to keep everybody gainfully employed. I think this is going to go faster than what people think.
Think it's going to be over with for start of football season?
I'm trying not to step down rabbit hole things that I think are going on. I'm just trying to go with what I actually live. I've always said this, and I don't know where I picked it up in life, but I don't believe anything you hear and only half of what you see.
Yeah, you're right about that.
In other words, be smart enough to question things. And right now, I think Americans are starting to wake up to the point that we need to start questioning things the government is doing. We also need to question where this virus came from. And I honestly believe this is a bioweapon that was deliberately released on us by the quote-unquote deep state people, bad players, whatever you want to call it.
How about we dive into this a little bit?
What's that?
I said, how about we dive into this a little bit?
Yeah, we can.
I don't know, man.
And what I'm afraid is going on is we're being played, and I think the world's starting to come to the realization of it.
What do you think?
How we're going to deal with the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, is it's concerning to me.
Well, now let me ask a question. Now we got a lot of things that have closed down. Obviously, I saw something this morning that said about 90% are adhering to the COVID-19 issues and the 6 feet distance and all that. But what happens if the post office has to close down? How do you think that's going to affect everything?
I'm going to stop getting junk mail. Pretty much everything I do is on the computer, paying my bills and things like that. So there's really, I got a list in my office, all the bills I have every month. And so most of them that come in, I've already gone on the internet and paid them. And a lot of it I have paperless.
Yeah.
So the post office for me shutting down, I could see it having an impact on like Amazon likes to use a lot of the postal service.
Yeah, FedEx does
for
too.
Delivering things.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to disrupt the supply chain.
I think it's going to have a big difference. It's going to make a big deal if the post office ever has to shut down for this. A lot bigger.
Yeah.
I think there are quite a few people that utilize the internet for bills, but there's people, out there still, the Social Security checks to go to the people and all kinds of other stuff that the post office is in charge of.
I don't think we're going to be shut down as long as people think we're going to be shut down. I think already with them talking about chloroquine, that it works, and they're having such a high effective rate of treating people with it, that it to me personally right now, that is the cure.
So chloroquine's that malaria drug, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Malaria drug. And these other doctors who've been using it, and it's not just here in France and some other places, they're all having nearly 100% effective cure rate with the chloroquine. Okay. Now, what bothers me is why does our mainstream media, say, well, this isn't true and we need to test it. This is a drug that's been on the market for like 50 years. It's already on the market. Doctors prescribe it for other problems.
Well, but there's issues, Paul. There's issues with that and kidney function and some other internal organ things that they're worried about.
Well,
that would
if I'm about to die from acute respiratory illness because of this virus, and you tell me you can give me chloroquine, and 4 hours later, guys are pulling out of it.
You get your kidneys fixed.
I'll sign the waiver.
Yeah. There's thought for that. There's thought for that. And I think that the president has talked about that himself, hasn't he?
I believe so.
He's a big advocate of the chloroquine, and I think they know more than what they're telling us. See, it's a matter of to me personally, in the government, when it comes to this whole thing, you still got people who are operating under the guise they don't give a rat's ass. You got politicians that don't give a rat's ass about this country. They only give a rat's ass about who's putting money in their pockets. And they've kept us divided by race, divided by religion, divided by economic, social status, and they keep us at each other's throat. And they do this deliberately. And the same way, they give out freebies all the time to certain sections of society, and who get so dependent on those freebies, they're not going to try to work or better themselves or anything. They're just depending on that. So you have a lot of weapons at their disposal to make us all dislike each other.
Okay, so that information you're talking about, where do you usually get that information on the virus and what the deep state's trying to do?
Well, now during this virus thing, when it started coming out, when I first heard about it, it was right as they were trying to impeach Donald Trump.
Right.
And they were ignoring it. They weren't even talking about it. It wasn't a big deal because they were going full press to get Donald Trump impeached. Well, they didn't impeach shit. They can sit there and say whatever they want. They didn't prove jack squat of nothing. Now, the only thing I do see is a lot of evidence that's being bought up by the I'll call them patriots if you want to call them that, but to me the people that still believe in the rule of law. And I'm finding more and more paperwork trails and evidence and circumstantial evidence that's pointing to the exact opposite. It's like everything they accuse the president of, they're doing themselves.
Okay. All right. Now let me ask you a question.
Classic projection.
Let me ask you a question then. You talked about you think this is going to be over sooner than most people think. You think we're going to have football start on time? You know, Green Bay, Chicago?
Yeah. I believe our football season will start on time this fall. I believe, but I think I don't want to go too deep into the rabbit hole.
I appreciate that.
Because then people get confused. But what I'm understanding what I see is the cure is going to come out here relatively quick, and I think the chloroquine is going to be that cure. Maybe they'll come out with some sort of vaccine for it, but for right now, if people realize that there's a pill that they can take if they get this coronavirus, and even older people have had success rates with this, that it's going to put a lot of people's minds at ease. Well, it'll make it go away. If people think as soon as they know there's a cure for this is all going to go away.
Do you think there's going to be a vaccine quicker than there was for the H1N1?
Yeah,
because that one took about a year and a half.
Well, see, like I said, this is a patented virus. This virus was manipulated by men, and just like anything else that isn't created by the Almighty, they're figuring this out, and they're figuring out how to beat it.
So you truly believe that this virus didn't jump from an animal to a human?
No, this was done in a lab, dude. This is done in a lab. It'll all come out.
Okay.
You can see, now you got to look back in the past. We just had a Harvard professor, biological dude, who got arrested for espionage. All right?
When was this? When was that?
Just a few weeks ago. You could look the guy's name up on the internet. Him, and they've also caught several Chinese people that they got caught with vials of different contagion that they were trying to sneak out of this country. And see, what a lot of people don't realize, we get Chinese people that are over here. They're part of the Chinese Communist Party, but they come over here as students. This one gal, they caught her, the one that they caught with the vials of contagion and stuff that she had, the virus vials, and never really heard much more about it. But I'm sure you can find it on Google it and bring it up, or go to DuckDuckGo or something like that. But they found out after investigating her, she wasn't not only just a Chinese student, she was an officer in the Chinese military.
Well, let me ask you a question. Why do you think this is not...
And she worked intelligence.
Why do you think that this hasn't been put out there?
They're here in mass in our country trying to steal everything they can steal.
Well, then...
And believe me, they don't love us. They want us gone. America is a thorn in their communistic side.
Hey, Paul.
With the specter of communism throughout the world.
Paul, what?
Go ahead.
So why hasn't this been made, to the press?
Public knowledge.
Yeah, thank you. Public knowledge. Why don't people know about this? Why do we still think it's coming from a rat or a bat?
Mainstream media has been bought into and bought off so bad by what I call them, you want to call them the elites, the one percenters, the Chinese Communist Party, but they've been bought and paid for. So these people are nothing more than just like Brian Stelter and Cuomo and Don Lemon and all these other people are out there. They're bought and paid for. They're going to toe the party line. See, these people, they want their paycheck, so they're going to sit there and throw any rubbish out there is, and they're going to follow what their masters tell them to do.
Their masters.
I think a lot of this is a lot more sinister than what people want to admit or what we're being told.
So when do you think we're going to hear about this stuff? When do you think that, you're talking about the rabbit hole?
Everything everything I've told you right now, up until now, is out on the media. It is out on social media. It's just you've got to be able to find yourself some good sources, especially citizen journalists. They got some excellent citizen journalists out there, and they're the first ones to tell you, hey, look, I don't know if this is true, but this is what this magazine here reported. This is what this reporter here reported, or the New York Times wrote this article, and this is all BS, and this, and this is why. It's just like the mainstream media now. They take a soundbite from the president. They twist it all up. They make it into a bold-faced lie. They just take what the little piece of it they want to present and put out to the dummies, and the dummies who don't think for themselves just sit there and soak it up like lemmings, and they don't even question it.
All right.
We got people that vote for politicians because their friends voted for that politician. Well, a person making a decision about my money, my life, and my family, I kind of want to know who the hell they are. I mean, these people don't even check their background. When I started checking into Barack Obama when he first started running, I was like, wait a second, this guy's got his school records sealed. He's got his employment records sealed. He was disbarred as an attorney, him and his wife, and we vote this guy in to be a president. And he ain't done no time in Congress, but like a couple days, and now next thing you know, this guy's president.
Well,
and we don't know nothing about his background. Everything's shady. They still ain't even finished finding out about his birth certificate. They got a whole laundry list of people that are sitting there saying this birth certificate that he finally crapped doesn't even, they put him down there as Kenyan American or something like that.
Okay. Oh, Paul, you're going down a separate rabbit hole, brother. All right.
Well, I know.
You're getting wound up tighter than a top, my man. We're gonna
bring me back to topic.
Okay, we're gonna pivot now. All right, Sharp. What other questions you got for Paul here?
Before we switch subjects completely.
Oh shit!
All right, we're COVID-19. We'll come back around to this.
When did you first start getting into conspiracy theories?
I've never been into conspiracy theories.
Well, that's what it sounds like to everybody else, though, brother.
I bumped into what is called a conspiracy theory, and I found it interesting because I noticed it kind of had a military vibe to it, and it's the QAnon, the Q movement, and it started back around the 28th of October 2017. The day after to the Department of Justice, just throwing that out there. And I started looking at these posts probably about December of 2017, and I started reading this stuff and started getting into it. And I read the whole spiel they had on the page and stuff, and it's all QAnon is whoever the powers that be that are running it and posting. I happen to believe it's military intelligence and some very high-ranking individuals close to the president. And throughout all this, there's these things that get thrown out that are Q-proofs. And there's so many Q-proofs right now. If you look at it and you read them, you'll be sitting there like, wow, there's no way that the person who posted this on the Q board was not standing next to the president at this very time. And they call them zero deltas. Trump says it or tweets it, and within a minute, Q's got it posted. Or Q posts it, and Trump says it within a minute.
Well, wait a second. I've heard that people say that Trump is Q.
See, that's the other thing too. From what the anons, and that's all these people that go on 8chan, and they all get busy and try to find the truth and go through these different articles and look at the different crumbs that Q drops for us. We were presuming that Q plus is President Trump, Q is the military intelligence team, and Q minus is the vice president.
Interesting.
And that's and like I say, when you go through the Q proofs, it's for me, and I always keep a level of skepticism. There's some things that I've learned from the Q board and things like that. I don't talk about. It's just like it's so far out there. It's hard to grasp what It's just,
So are you saying there's
just
even some of the stuff on there that you don't believe?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say I don't believe it, but I'm a doubting Thomas. I'm from Missouri. You're going to have to show me.
Well, be honest with you, I'm not from Missouri, but there's a lot of things that.
Neither am I. But
well,
I'm just doing the show me state thing. Go
ahead. You've been talking to me about this for quite a while, and every once in a while, I'll get online and I'll look it up. And honestly, brother, I find it hard to believe 80% of what I see. And again, and I know there's a lot of people out there like me, but I haven't got down, like you say, into the rabbit hole to look too deep into it. Maybe that's my fault. Maybe I should get deeper into it to understand. But I don't get everything that you're talking about as gospel.
Oh, and I wouldn't say it's gospel either. Q has even told us, sometimes disinformation has to be put out there. These guys are literally fighting a war between good and evil right now, and it's at a higher up governmental level. And I'm not talking just the U.S. government. I'm talking powerful people throughout the world, and they have become very interconnected.
The Rothschilds.
And let's face it, they want about 85% of us to go away.
Talk about the Rothschilds.
Not just the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the House of Saud. You got all sorts of players in this.
There's a lot
but
of
they
big
are
money out there.
definitely not on God's side for the sure. And now I noticed on Google the other day things that you would type in that wouldn't even come up months ago. Now you type it in Google and there's no censorship on it now, and you can see it. Just a couple weeks ago, if I'd have typed in the term adrenochrome and what it was and stuff, you'd hardly get any information come up on Google about it.
That's American.
Now you go into.
Wait, hold on a second. That's the malaria drug you're talking about?
No. Adrenochrome. This is a totally different.
What is it?
Away from the COVID-19 stuff.
Oh,
shit! I'm jumping off of other rabbit holes here.
Okay, you got too many rabbit holes, man. I'm losing track.
Well, and I think that's what it's confusing to a lot of people, because what I'm getting at is the stuff that I know physically from the news that's being reported, and you're actually seeing camera footage of it, this, that, and the other thing, has a lot to do with the other stuff down the rabbit hole.
Okay.
All right. And that's what's got a lot of people confused. And right now, the president said just 2 days ago, he said the next 2 weeks are going to be very hard.
Yeah, I remember him saying that. Yeah, he was talking about that.
And well, wait a second. We're all dealing with the same coronavirus. We're all going through the same protocols and everything else. So what is so horrific? What is going to be so disturbing to us, in particular, the next 2 weeks? And he didn't go into talking about that, did he?
No.
And it kind of was different from what he's been saying. He's been giving a lot of message of hope and everything else, and a cure, and fixing these things. But then all of a sudden, he said, just before this weekend, hey, we are going to have a very rough 2 weeks.
Right. I remember that. Yeah. And honestly, the mainstream media picked that up as finally he's getting it.
The media can say what they want. They're bullshit. I'm so tired of these communist people. That's all the media has become in this country now. It's just peddling propaganda.
Everybody's
propaganda for for the elitists and propagandists for the Chinese Communist Party.
I think everybody's got their own agenda. Everybody's got their own Nielsen ratings they need to get.
I'm talking big picture on this.
Oh, that's too small picture?
Yeah. I can back it away further. You kind of got to look. There's a lot of evil entities and very powerful people that are right now in the situation where they are going to lose their grip. The central bank's collapsing. It's collapsing.
You're talking about central bank collapsing. My sister, who told me, she texted me the other day and said, "Listen, you better get your money out of the banks. They're not letting you take any money out. And the banks are starting. When the banks close, it's all going to be over." And I've told you, my sister is a little bit on your side as opposed to, left or right, whatever. She believes a little bit of what you believe in.
Well, I'm not trying to say a side. I'm just trying to find the truth. Now, if there's anybody, like we said earlier, that doesn't feel like there's something really big going on right now in this world, then I don't know. Maybe you'll catch on to it later. Some people have had this kind of feeling all the way back, like myself, all the way back before Obama got elected. Just things are not right, and I really feel there's a big power shift getting ready to happen. A struggle.
What kind of power shift? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think this comes down to real good versus evil thing, and that's what I'm feeling. That's kind of the sixth sense kind of thing. If it is, I ain't gonna sit here and say I've had these revelations and all this other garbage. No, it's just a feeling. It's a feeling inside me. It's a pull. It goes all the way back from when Obama first showed up to run again and dethroned Hillary there for a couple, for her chance at it. And the more you start to see these things, like our endless wars in the Middle East.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I can't stand that. Yep, yeah, you're right about that.
They couldn't. Bush couldn't solve it. Clinton couldn't solve it. Obama couldn't solve it. And yet all of a sudden here comes Trump and General Mattis, and the shit's squashed in a year.
You talking about ISIS?
Yeah. And I'm just like, well, why all this? Why all this? What's going on? And I have my theories, and I've heard other people's theories, and the thing of it is you start to look at it with some sound common sense.
Yeah. I'm listening.
What's that?
Sharp and I were just talking about something. We're watching the time. We're watching the time.
Oh, okay. So you guys are trying to do this great podcast.
We're trying to. Yeah, we're trying. It is a great podcast.
We're trying to give you an audience. Is what we're doing.
We're going to give you that audience, but we know that
listen to me.
There's it's only 29 minutes.
All right.
We got 29 minutes on this first section, and then we're gonna pivot over to the next 29 after this is over. You got something else, Sean?
No. I mean, unless you were not done with your thought, Paul.
Well,
Give us the cliff notes real quick. Give us the cliff notes.
You want the rundown?
Yeah, just a quick rundown, and then we'll pivot to a different.
Crazy version of it. You ready for the crazy version?
Oh, I am so ready for this.
Let's do it, Paul. Let's do it.
Here's what's going. We had, over the decades, we've had a bunch of satanic Hollywood elitists and a bunch of elitists in the world that are part of the satanic Luciferian cult that is spread throughout the power structure throughout this entire world. This has actually been going on for millennia, but it's now in our modern times, so I try to separate the two. But if you look all the way back to the Illuminati, the beginnings there, with Joachim Weishaupt in Bavaria, bringing this, the Illuminati rules that they had, and then they presented, a group of them presented it to Marx, and that's where Marx came up with his comment for some of the basic rules of his Communist Manifesto. but then he added more rules to it. And Stalin and Lenin and all these other guys, they're all very evil people. And I will also tell you, Lenin, Stalin, and Marx were all devout Satanists.
Okay.
Check your history books. Admittedly so devout Satanists. So to say that this is just a little thing going on, no. We've been lied to. We've been controlled. We're being treated like cattle. And
when
Yeah.
you lost your train of thought, what's the deal, man?
Are changing right now, and I give you Donald Trump, one of those big things. Look, he's kept every promise. They all call him a liar, but then you ask somebody, well, what has he lied about? And they all sit there and look at you like a stupid cow because they're listening to what's being regurgitated to them. They're not paying attention to what the man is doing or what he's thinking.
Okay.
And
on that,
it. They don't want to.
They're
full of hate. They're full of rage.
On that aspect, he was part of the 1% prior to presidency. Do you think he's one of those devout Satanists in that cult?
No, he's not. He's never been accepted in that world. That's the thing. If you go back and look at Donald Trump's history to his father and to his uncle, and especially for Donald Trump to his mother, he actually is a very religious guy. He just, he was a playboy when he was younger. And look at what they've done to him. They've dug in that dude's closet for the last 4 years. What did they come up with? Nothing.
Well,
other than the fact he's a typical shyster businessman.
And that's why they don't like him.
He knows how to turn a buck in his favor. He knows how to play the loophole. He gets attorneys to do that. And then everybody said he got his money from his father. No, he got his initial investment from his father.
A small $1 million loan.
On his own. What's that?
He got a small $1 million loan from his father.
Is that what it was? 1 million? I thought it was like 10 million or something. But either way, it's pennies. The guy's worth billions. So there's something to the guy. And if you listen to him, he is expounding some very good wisdom, very good common sense, and sound judgment. But I like to call them the free love radicals on the left. It's crimping in on their style, I guess, because he doesn't want to just let criminals run loose amok. He doesn't want to let people just cross our border willy-nilly. And this ain't the summer of free love. In case you haven't noticed, there's a lot of demented sexual shit going on in this world, diseases that are going on in this world. All the left has offered us, all the Dems have offered us, especially since the 70s, is get the father out of the home, make the mother dependent on the government, make her have more kids because that way she knows she's going to have her health care and their health care taken care of. They've stripped the man of his role of father in the house to the point where we got these angry fem Nazis running around the street that they're all fucking mad about something, and then when you ask them what they're mad about, they can't fucking explain it to you.
Paul, let's you better ramp back a little bit, brother. you got to ramp back, man. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Just tell us how you really feel, all right?
I think we've already got that. We understand how you feel.
Yeah. And I'm saying, look, you respect women. I was taught to respect women growing up. I have 7 sisters, for crying out loud. I taught my daughters to get an education, go to college, which they both did. I said, because you don't want to depend on a man. Because what's being raised now and called a man is crap. These guys don't even stick around. They up and haul ass. And then you wonder, and then you get this other group sitting there saying, well, guys don't want to commit. Do you want to commit to somebody who's going to divorce your ass in 2 years
All right.
and take all your money? And you're gonna have to live in a 1-bedroom apartment eating bologna while all your money's going to her so she can have the house, the car, the kids.
All right.
Paul,
you and I are in agreement in that I don't want my daughters or any woman to be beholden to a man. They all need to get their education.
Sorry, you just said daughters.
Every man's daughters.
Okay. All right.
I only have one. I know that. But Paul's got two.
He said daughters, referring to my two daughters. And
right.
Hey, if you're not comfortable with your gender, Sharp,
okay.
then you're just going to have to. You're going to have to get over that problem yourself.
So I've always preached that even to the kids at the high school.
Oh, we're not going down that one.
No more rabbit holes, Paul.
Not that one.
Listen, brother. Listen. I've always preached, even to the kids at school. These girls, they get boyfriends. The boys get girlfriends. Education is the most important. You don't ever want your daughter or son to be beholden to anybody because they didn't get an education. They should be able to deal with life and get out there and make money, make something of themselves without depending on somebody else. Now, if you're lucky enough to have a husband or a wife that you're both simpatico on that kind of stuff, that's a great thing. That means you're going to be successful all around. So,
yeah.
but
a lot of them could avoid the pain by not getting pregnant in the first place, not falling into the old trap. But we still, our moral compass is severely bent. In our society.
I think you're generalizing too much. I don't think that is that bad. I mean, Paul, has been bad forever. I mean, there's been bad going on for a long time. This is just we just got more people in the world today and more issues and more social media and more TV and more movies. They just give you different aspects of what the movie producer or the TV producer or whatever it may be, that puts out what they think, and just because they say it doesn't make it so. I don't care. There's a lot of things I've always questioned, because just because somebody wrote it down and it's a regulation doesn't mean it's right. Because there was a man who did that for whatever reasons. Why can't I come back and rewrite that regulation, say this is the way it should go? That's the way I feel about it. You always got to question.
Look at the last administration we had. They put rules on everything. They put rules on other rules.
Oh, yeah.
So that way, instead of being able to get a highway project or a bridge built in a couple of years, no, they got to go through 10 years of bullshit.
There are a lot of things they got to jump through. They got to jump through a lot of hoops nowadays, especially environmental.
You got to get rid of those hoops. You got to get rid of those. And the other thing, don't get me going on this damn global warming.
No, we're not going to do that.
We're not.
We're not going to do that, Paul.
You can come on again. We can talk about some more things.
You don't have to get it all out there in one show. Don't do it, man. We're already through the half hour. We're on our next half hour.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. All right. So today's Palm Sunday, right? Did you? Amen, brother. Did you end up watching it or internet, whatever it is, the service today, the mass today?
No, I have not today.
Okay. So, and I did that this morning. Now, I'm not even, I was a Catholic. I was born a Catholic, baptized, 8 years of grade school.
They know what Palm Sunday is.
Oh, yeah. And then I went 2-3 years in high school, a Catholic high school, and then I left and did my own thing. But I thought the service I thought was fairly good. They talked about Christ. They talked about the suffering. They talked about the resurrection. And that's, I think, something that more people need to hear. It was straightforward. There was not a lot of – when I was watching the Mass on television, I'm not even a Catholic anymore. I'm Lutheran. In that they had nobody in the church at all. It was a basilica in Washington, D.C. I was watching it on the Catholic Network. Probably other people did the same thing. But it was they were adhering to all the COVID.
They're all closed down right now.
Yeah, they were all adhering to the COVID-19 thing, and it was all good. And the thing about it is there are ways that we can keep our faith and keep our strength, and you don't really need to be in a building to tell you that you've talked to God or been around God. That's always been my thought process. You could be in your own home.
Look, dogma and everything that's taught by the churches, it's like we're all running the same race on the same damn field, but we're all in different lanes. But we all want to win.
Oh yeah, we all
want to make it to heaven.
The Jews,
we all want to make it to
the Christians, the Muslims. They all, it's crazy that they kill each other, and especially during the Crusades and when they were trying to take over Europe from the Middle East, the Muslims. And you start from Abraham, and then all three religions went from that. Am I wrong on that? Where you got Moses, you got Jesus, and you've got Muhammad. And all of them are just vectors to God.
Didn't Muhammad come like 1,000 years after Christ?
I don't know if it was 1,000, but it was a few hundred years. It was a few centuries, yes, after Christ. Yeah, because it was.
But like anything else, they took the good and corrupted it.
Muslims did.
It's just like you got a lot of Christians that took the good and corrupted it.
Yes, they did.
And when they corrupted it, that prompted others to break away from that and make their own.
I agree with that.
Okay.
You're breaking up, Paul. Can you hear me? Paul? I think we lost him.
Hello? Are you there?
I think we lost our very opinionated brother from Wisconsin.
I think we did too.
It's okay. What time were we sitting on time?
We've been recording for 40 minutes.
40 minutes?
We've been on for 40 minutes.
Paul can make time fly.
Paul can make time fly. See, there's that tongue again.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well,
every time.
We're gonna once this is through, I think I'm gonna give him a call back, and we'll talk to him a little bit more about where he stands on some of these issues, because he was rabbit holing it.
Yes. Oh, here he is again.
All right, Paul, you there?
It's not coming up on my lappy toppy.
Oh no. Technology. We're still trying to work it out. Still trying to work it out.
End this call.
Okay.
And let's see.
All right. I'll give him a call after this in a few minutes.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice.
Okay. Well,
I'll probably call you back.
Yeah.
But, I wanted to get a little bit into the religion aspects. It is the holiest season of the year.
Yeah,
Easter
I agree.
and all that. And the Catholic religion, just to touch on a little bit more, born, raised, all that good stuff. And then it was an issue after your mother and I got married, and she was Lutheran, and they gave her such a hard time. I was over in Desert Storm.
Yeah, I didn't know about that until I think last year when I was doing my veterans project. We all talked about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was over there. She wanted to convert to Catholicism, and it was crazy stuff because your mother and I were married in Arizona, and we didn't have a Catholic wedding at that time. But now she's full into wanting to, get into the religion that I believed in, and I want. And she was. I remember because over there at that time, once every 2-3 months or whatever, we'd be able to call home. We'd have to go to AT&T satellite spot to call. And she was in tears about the priest, and he was mean. He was saying this and saying that. I'm not going to get into specifics. And I said, fuck him. And I was very upset. I was very pissed off because you expect your priest, that religion to support you more, work it out with you. And I said, the hell with it. When I got back to the States, went to her church and converted to a Lutheran. The Lutheran religion is very close to Catholicism.
It is. It's very close.
It is. And, and what I was saying earlier, there's only one God. And the Catholics, the Jews, and the Muslims all believe in that same one God. And I think, and you can argue with me all you want, but Muhammad and Jesus Christ and Moses are all those three vectors to God. And I think that God found man to be so indispensably stupid that he had to spread it out.
We are very stupid.
And I just agree with that. And I still think, regardless that this is the holiest week of the year with Palm Sunday and Easter coming up, I still say my prayers.
Yeah.
Take my vitamins. Try to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Healthy mentally and physically. But so anyway, Paul's a very strong Catholic, and I wanted to get his opinion on that, and we lost him. That's
and just strongly opinionated on everything.
Very, and I've had long conversations with Paul on this before, and he believes in it strongly. And I have tried to look up on the internet the QAnon. And for the life of me, I can't take it to heart, all of it. I just can't. I just really can't. Some of you agree with me. Some of you agree with Paul. That's okay. That's why we're here, to get conversations going.
I think it would be good, maybe soon, since we got somebody clearly on the far right end of things, to get somebody on the far left.
I think that would be a young man that I served in Iraq with, Pete Rubalcaba.
Yeah?
Pete Rubalcaba. And I stay in contact with him in social media. Excuse me. And I think he would be a good on the left as opposed to the right conversation on this. And Pete, I appreciate you. You always watch these things and give me your input, and I appreciate that. I take it to heart. But maybe you and I get together and we'll talk about this. Maybe we'll get you in here to have a few words, point counterpoint kind of thing.
And even on that sense, yeah, never mind. I've got friends and professors that would be.
Oh yeah, it could be the same thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll see how it all works out.
Yeah.
There's others I'd like to talk to. Just like Ralph Cocott.
Yep.
The guy I grew up with in East Chicago. He's CEO of Van Air Manufacturing out in Michigan City.
Potential sponsor.
We want to talk to Ralph about that, help us out a little bit. But he's a very bright young man, and he's got a very successful business. And I think he's got a point of view that kind of hits maybe in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, I think he's a lot like you and is a very middle ground now in his later years.
Could be.
About things.
He and I don't ever talk about things like that, though, really. We don't get too involved in that. Our conversation is usually, how you doing? Remember the day? Remember when we did this? I've known him since I was 13, 14 years old, so that's an old friend of mine. But and then John Pitt, talk to him. Mike Goen, I haven't really talked to Mike Goen. He's a ROTC instructor in Chicago.
All right, we got a few more minutes. I can find them out. Hello.
What'd you do, Paul? Did you hang up on us? You got pissed off? What's the deal, brother?
You guys there?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah, we figured you just got tired and just hung up. You had to go eat lunch or something. So.
No, you guys cut out for me. I've been trying to call you back.
Oh yeah, I'm not even mad. I don't know. We just got the phone call on his computer.
I was like, wow, I might have given too much to think about.
I think you did. You burned up the wires. You burned up the internet from Wisconsin to Indiana. But anyway, after you cut out, we talked a little bit about religion, Catholics, Jews, Muslims, things like that, and we talked a little bit about your rabbit hole, and that you went down more than one, and so that we're gonna what we're gonna do, Paul, and I will be straight up with you. I want you to look at this video once Sharp's posted. But we're thinking about getting other side, opposite side, left version of what you think. And I think I've got a couple people involved, and just the good give and take. I really like a good give and take on thoughts and ideas.
Well, and like a lot of what I'm giving you guys is just my thoughts on things.
Oh, I know.
That's a lot of this podcast in general. Is we don't research things. I said that's a lot of this podcast in general. We don't research a lot, but we like giving our opinion.
We just sit back. I mean, we'd probably be a lot better if we'd sit down and.
I research things, guys. I really dig into a lot of things, but a lot of things that I'm concerned about and what I see going on. And I tell you what, the QAnon thing, people say whatever they want, but like Jeffrey Epstein, I knew about that dude 2 years before people even heard his name on the national news.
You think he killed himself?
Oh hell no. He was helped out. He ran what he did is he ran a blackmail operation. He had the place in New York. He had the place at Little St. James Island, and then he had the place out in New Mexico. All right, there was a lot of kids tortured and sexually abused, and they got proof pointing to this, but yet you don't hear a word of it from the mainstream media anymore.
Yeah, they kind of dropped that out of it. It's not news anymore. He's dead. They're moving on.
Yeah. Well, they're covering up because this is one of the biggest child sex trafficking and human trafficking and organ trafficking operations on the face of the earth. You know, it started out with Allison Mack and that Keith Raniere dude with Nexium. And then you move to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, where who the hell knows where she's hiding. You know, and you get Les Wexner involved in this, and some of these other huge bigwigs. And it's just like, wow, you start following the trail and stuff, follow the money.
Yeah.
And these people, you can tell they're guilty of stuff.
Okay. Well, and I agree with you. I think what we need to think about, my brother. Next time you call in, we got to talk a little bit about our time in the military together in Desert Storm. I think that's a good topic. I think you and I can relate a couple good stories with that.
Too.
We can talk.
I guess right now, everything that's on my mind is in the here and now and what's happening.
And I think next time you come on, it would be a good time to get all our minds off of it and maybe talk about your time in the past that you spent in the military and with my father.
We want to talk a little bit about VA care, military.
Your dad and I stayed in a tent with actually it was more like poncho liners around 4 steel pickets in the ground, and we sat there miserable for over a month outside of Al-Jahar Ridge Complex, outside of Kuwait City, watching the oil wells burn and watching the locals celebrate our huge ass kicking by shooting their guns off in the air all night long.
I forgot about that.
I never forget that crap. And then the little kids trying to sneak their hands inside our little temporary made-up hooch, trying to steal cigarettes out of our bag.
Were you in that when the camel stuck his head in there and tried to nibble on the pack of cigarettes to my right or left?
No.
Oh
you
my
told me about
God! That. Scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, I know. We were about 30 yards away from Pokey, the dead horse, rotting into the fence.
That's true, and the goat on the other side. That's when I got. That's when I got my promotion. Remember that? You got a camel on one side, a goat on the other, stinking up the area, and I get promoted on the battlefield, as I like to say to people.
There you go. Sergeant Marshal.
Yeah, finally a sergeant.
I remember that. Remember the camel that died by the mess hall trailer?
Yeah.
They tried lighting it on fire.
Yeah, didn't burn very well.
It even funnier.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and they had to push an 88 over to just push a bunch of sand on top of it. Yeah. We didn't move the MKT though. Mess trailer stayed right there.
Right there with just covered it up.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's the military world. You gotta love it. That whole area was filled with nothing but animals, dead animal bones, and everything else. And trying to do a police call in the desert, you're pulling up parts of sheep, fur, beef.
I forgot about that.
Then the birds saw big ideas. Well, we'll leave that alone.
Yeah.
Just anything that's man-made. Okay.
Yeah.
You guys got us living in a cattle yard, a livestock yard, where they obviously butchered a lot of animals. It was hilarious. And the dogs.
Oh, shooting the dogs. That's a story I'd like you to tell next time with what was his name? The captain's name? I forgot his freaking name.
Captain Jones.
Oh, Jones. Didn't he have a little dog and somebody shot the dog on his cot?
Lieutenant Woolley is married, has a wife. And there was another lieutenant we had that was willing to stay as rear detachment when we headed back to Fort Hood. And Captain Jones wanted Lieutenant Woolley to stay back. And Lieutenant Woolley and one of these other lieutenants, I forget, we had a tall, skinny guy with glasses, but he told Captain Jones, hey, I'll stay here. I'm not married. Let the guy go back home to his family. Yeah, and you know Jones. Right. He was the Captain Bly. Yeah. Anything to put on somebody's day. Yeah. And so what happens is they started working on Lieutenant Woolley, telling him, he's doing this on purpose. He's doing this on purpose. You shouldn't be taking that shit. We're not supposed to have dogs. All the dogs are supposed to be dead. Right. Well, Captain Jones had this little puppy that was hanging around his tent all the time. He and you know damn well he's feeding it.
He kind of took a liking to it.
So Lieutenant Woolley pulls out his 45 and he blasts around into this puppy. And the puppy runs into Captain Jones' tent. Well, Lieutenant Woolley started the job, so he's going to go in here and finish it. So he killed the puppy just to fucking get it back. And poor animal suffered. Yeah. Because these fucking grown men can't fucking, they want to piss on each other's boots. But anyways, long story short, Lieutenant Woolley stayed rear detachment. and nothing worked out in anybody's favor.
That was funny.
These are supposed to be our grown leaders, the grown men who
Think about it. These guys
Captain
are
Jones, you gotta
grown.
do QT with the protective mask
Think
on.
about it. Grown
You know?
leaders in their mid-20s, late 20s, acting like kids.
Yeah. Well, we were all kids.
Yeah.
We're all kids. I was 25. You were what? Almost 30.
I was. Yeah, I was 29.
Yeah. You know, and here we got this second lieutenant who's 22, 23 years old.
Yeah.
And all he did was play with his Game Boy the whole time.
Yeah, that's true.
Look at that.
Yeah, see the fun you have in combat.
I
At least when it's over.
I would say the three most intelligent NCOs, more intelligent NCOs we had in that sport platoon were you, myself, and Howie.
Yeah, Andy was a smart kid. He was a smart guy.
Yeah.
He was a stupid fuck in this way. When he took his ASVAB before he joined the military, when he was he didn't take it serious. He scored like an 89, and that's why he ended up in the job he had. He was trying like hell after.
Really?
Yeah, he scored like an 89 or 90 because he didn't. You know, his GT scores are I think like that. So you know you got to score at least a 110 or over to you can do anything in the Army.
Yeah.
But he was a smart guy. He just said I didn't give a shit, you know. And then look at me. I joined. Now I'm sitting here with these fucksticks.
Yeah, and you know what? And that makes sense because I used to look at Andy like, and I looked at you. I was like, you guys like should be officers. You shouldn't be putting up with this shit.
Yeah, but we did.
But you were.
But we were, and we did. I'm much better for it. Wouldn't have never met you.
Yeah. There you go.
That's
that's the highlight of your life.
It is. It is.
Oh man, you know, for some people that's aiming high.
Yeah. Where we at,
For
Sean?
others, yeah. But you know, I look at this way. What we've known each other almost 30 years now.
Yeah. 90.
Over 30 years.
Yeah. Long time.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, it's like brothers. You know, you just, regardless, no matter what, good or bad, you're there for each other. You know, that's just the way it is. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. I'm surprised more of us in the support platoon didn't stay in touch with each other.
Yes, Rose passed away. Didn't Burning pass away already?
Yeah. Yep.
I never heard.
Kent died.
Yeah, I never heard from Cochran or Andy. I saw Andy for a while on Facebook. Then he just dropped off the
Andy,
map.
you know, he did the college thing. He's the soccer coach thing and stuff. And you know what? He's probably better for it.
Yeah. He was a good guy.
But he even told me one time when we were still in the desert that he was done. As soon as his enlistment was up, he was done.
Getting the hell out. Yeah.
And he held true to it. He was like, goodbye.
Right.
I'm out of here.
You know what?
And then
On that note,
Cochran, well, his wife destroyed him.
Oh, that's another story. Jesus.
Paul, I think we're gonna cut the podcast right here. Don't get off the line. We can still talk to you after we turn it off. But I want to tell everyone thanks for watching, and we'll come back with Paul again soon.
All right. Adios, everybody.